Assalamu alaikum, hope everyone is doing well. Today we'll be going over the command verb. So commands are usually delivered to a person who is present or in front of you. So this means that they're limited to the second person. While it's possible to command someone in the third or first person, it's going to require extra words to be associated with it, like must or should. We'll be covering that later on, but in this video, we'll focus on covering the command in the second person. So now, the pattern. The pattern for a command verb is fairly simple. First, you have an alif, which is prefixed with a dhamma, fatha, or a kasra. Then the first letter will get a sukoon. The second letter can either be a dhamma, fatha, or a kasra. And the third letter is going to have a sukoon. So to understand the pattern better, we'll need to look at how it's created. Okay, first you need to start with a second person present tense verb. Here we have taf'alu. And all you need to remember is that the haraka on the second letter can either be a dhamma, fatha, or a kasra, and depending on what it is, it's going to change the final appearance of the command. Here we have a fatha. And then next, all you have to do is put a sukoon on the end, so this becomes taf'al. And then next, all you need to do is remove the first letter, so now it's not pronounceable. And because it's not pronounceable, we got to add something here. And now the next step is we add an alif to the front and it becomes if'al. Okay, now remember how we talked about depending on what the haraka is on the second letter, the appearance of the commands will change. So if the haraka in the middle has a fatha or a kasra, then the alif is going to have a kasra. If the haraka in the middle is a dhamma, then the alif will have a dhamma instead. And that's all you need to know for now. Next, let's look at a few examples. So here we start with Taktubu, which is the second person present tense verb form, and it means you are writing. Now to put this in command form, first we put a sukoon on the end, so it becomes Taktub, and then we'll remove the first letter, so the ta is gone here. Now this is unpronounceable. Then all we need to do is add a alif, and the haraka on the alif is going to be determined by the haraka on the middle letter. Here it's a dhamma, so we'll have a dhamma on the alif, so this becomes uktub, which means write. Now let's look at another example. We have Taftahu, which means you are opening, and again this is in the second person present tense verb form. And now to put this in command form, all we need to do is put a sukoon on the end, so this becomes taftah. And then we remove the first letter, so the ta is gone, so now it's unpronounceable. And then we add an alif to the front, and the haraka on the alif is going to be dependent on the haraka of the middle letter. Here we have a fatha, therefore the haraka on the alif is going to be a kasra, so this becomes iftah, which means open. Now let's take a look at the noon and sukoon rule. Okay, so the noon and sukoon rule is essentially when you have a noon at the end of a conjugation and a sukoon is placed on it, then the noon will be dropped. So for example, if you have unsurani, it wouldn't be unsurani, it would be unsura. The noon is dropped. Same thing here. Unsuruna becomes unsura. And then unsurina becomes unsuri. The only exception is with the noon of femininity placed on the end of a female plural command. For example, unsurna will still be unsurna. The noon is not going to be dropped. So now let's take a look at a few examples. So here we have Tubani, which is the second person present tense dual form, and it means you both are writing. So now to put this in command form, we first need to put a sukoon on the noon, but because of the noon and sukoon rule, the noon is dropped, so it becomes taktuba instead. And then, like before, we remove the first letter, so it becomes unpronounceable. And then next, we add an alif to the front, and we know that it's going to have a dhamma because the haraka of the middle letter is a dhamma, so this becomes uktuba, and it means both of you write. Now let's take a look at another example. Here we have Taftahuna, and again second person present tense plural form, and it means you all are opening. So again, noon ending, so if we put a sukoon on it, the noon is going to be dropped, so this becomes Taftahu now. And then here you remove the first letter, the ta is gone, so now it's unpronounceable. And then you add in the alif, and because the second letter is a fatha, the alif is going to have a kasra on it, so it becomes iftahu, and it means all of you open. And then let's look at another example. And here we have Tansurina, which is the second person present tense singular feminine form, and it means you are helping. And now to put this in command form, we have to put a noon on the sukun. Because of that, the noon is dropped, so it becomes Tansuri. And then next we remove the first letter, so the ta is gone. Now it's unpronounceable. And then next we just add a alif. And because the haraka on the second letter is a dhamma, the haraka on the alif is gonna be a dhamma as well. So this becomes unsuri, which means help. And that's essentially how you go from a second person present tense verb to the command form. Now let's look at the conjugation table. So here is an example of a conjugation table for the command form of nasara. So here you have unsur, which is the second person masculine singular form, which means you help. And then you have unsura, which is the second person masculine dual form, which means both of you help. And then you have unsuru, which is the second person masculine plural form, which means all of you help. Then same thing here with unsuri, second person feminine singular form, you help. Unsura, second person feminine dual form, both of you help. And then unsurna, which is the second person feminine plural form, which means all of you help. Notice that all of the alifs have a dhamma on it because of the haraka of the second letter is a dhamma, and the ones that usually end with noon, the noon is removed, like here and here, but not for second person feminine plural because we have the noon of femininity, which is an exception, so it's present. And that's all you need to know for today, and I'll see you guys next time.